if you would like to follow me, so now we're moving to how-to section, and for some of you, or for many of you, those who have used rubrics in WIA courses already, certain things will be very familiar, and I just wanted to walk you through this one more time. So how to attach a rubric to an assignment or a graded discussion or a quiz, and then we will look into how to edit rubrics. We'll also look into some new changes that Canvas have added not long time ago, that rubrics can be graded, can be used for grading, and they can be just used for providing feedback to the students. So things like that. Also how to write a rubric with free comments, things like that. So I get a lot of questions like this from instructors, so we'll just cover all these questions. So the first thing that you will need to have, so if you have your courses and WIA courses, you can just go to one of the courses and just go into your assignments. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm going into assignments, and I'm in the course that we're using for many of presentations like this. So just so here are my assignments, and so I will just go to any assignment that I have. If you want, you can create just a mock assignment. And when you go to an assignment that has already been created, this assignment already, you see, has a rubric. Let me go to a different assignment that does not have a rubric. Just a second. I will just delete this rubric for now. So once you're in an assignment, you will have this Add Rubric button here on the very bottom of the assignment, and so you will just click here and add a rubric there. And from on start, you will be able to change the title of your rubric. And the good thing to start thinking about is what Tricia was talking earlier, that if you are planning to use your rubric for different assignments or for different classes, you definitely want to come up with a good name for your rubric in this case. Or, you know, if it's just going to be for one particular assignment, then you can name it the same way. So whatever title you come up with, it has to be meaningful and easy for you to search through your rubrics if you use many rubrics in the future. So the next thing, yes?
So is that what the comments are for, where you put stuff you might want to use in more than one course? I haven't used the comments.
No, the rubric itself can be attached to multiple assignments. So like, for example, you will create rubric one time,
yeah,
and then you will have several assignments in several courses, and then you will be able to attach the same rubric to several assignments.
But you said you might be able to use it in more than one course.
Yes.
So my question is, you can put stuff in the comments. I haven't, so I don't really understand it.
So you can put stuff in the comments. The comments might be a nice place to actually share learning objects or content with other people. Okay. So maybe other instructors in your department or university or publicly. You can't actually put the rubric by yourself in a comment. Right. You could put an assignment that had a rubric attached to it in the comments, but you would do that if you wanted to share it with somebody else, as opposed to have access to it yourself, person by person. Yeah.
But much to my surprise, I found that the rubrics stick, and so if you look for a rubric, I mean, if you create a rubric, you can find it from any class that you're in.
Okay. Right, you can.
It's not just tied to that one class. That's right. I mean,
it is not tied. It's just under your account. So pretty much all the classes that you're teaching, you will be able to access that rubric. You know, for all classes that you're teaching. The only thing that if you're going to use one rubric multiple times, you have to keep in mind that you cannot change it. Yeah, so it's not going to be that easy to change. So this is the limitation. So once you decided on the title, then you can go through the criteria. So that's where you edit the criteria. So right here, description of your criterion. And remember that in Canvas, also always look for this little pencil icon. So when you hover over this criterion, then and you click on this pencil icon, you can change your criterion depending on what you're going to be including in your rubric. Let's say content in this case. Just very generic criterion that I'm using, and then okay. You can also view longer description of this criterion in case if you want to put more text than just content, then you can click on this little link below the description, and then you can type here more depending on your needs, and then you'll just update description. So as far as criterion, you can also delete the criterion right here at the end of this line. You see this little X icon. You can just delete the whole thing, if you're not happy with it, you want to change something. The next thing that is important for you is to change ratings. By default, you have full marks and no marks, 2 ratings. So for you to add additional rating, you need to hover over the wall of this cell. For example, you see when your mouse changes into this double-sided arrow, and then you can just click on it, and then it automatically adds another rating here. And then again, look for this pencil icon, and then you can change your rating, and you can use the scales that Rachel, for example, was using today, or the one that Tao and Tricia were mentioning. So you can come up with a rating scale, the one that is used in your field, or the one that you think will meet your needs for the particular assignment. And then you can also change your points here also. For each particular rating, you can just highlight, and put whatever you need. You can also change the total points here, that the maximum points that you can give for that particular criterion. So things like that. And then to add additional criterion, here is another little plus icon that you click, and then you add another criterion and do the same thing. Change the criterion, change the ratings, change the points. If you don't want it, you can just delete the whole row, and that's it. Any questions about how to edit rubric? By the way, in that Bootcamp shell, if you go there, I added a page there with a Google Doc, and it has a lot of links to the Canvas tutorials on how to do things. So instead of recreating all those screenshots that they have, I just provided the whole thing there. So you can go and find everything about how to create a rubric in case if you forget something. You can also find a rubric that you've already created. So if you click on this Find a Rubric link here in the top right corner.
I have a quick question.
Yes?
When you're using a rubric to grade, is it possible to input a native score to criteria?
I think it is possible. I've seen Christy doing that actually with one of the assignments, and I can show you that because it was actually taking off. In my opinion. Yeah, I think one of the rubrics that you created earlier. And remind me, and we'll go back and we will see how it works. But I was testing it yesterday and was working with a negative score. Yeah. So and by the way, before I go back to find the rubric thing, I just wanted to talk about this 3 options here. This is like the second option is the most important if you want to use your rubric for grading. So make sure that this box is checked if you are using your rubric for assignment grading, because otherwise it's not going. If you use rubric, it's not going to be automatically populating the grade book if you do not have this box checked. And if you uncheck this box, you can see that in case if you just using the rubric for providing assessment expectations, like just communicating your expectations to the student for the assignment, then you can just disable the total score so that they will not see the total score that rubric gives to them. And in this case, it's not going to be, the rubric is not used for grading the assignment, just to communicate to the students whether they met your expectations or not, or some improvements need to be made. So stuff like that. What is it? The first one, I will return it back to this. This one is about writing a free-form comments rubric. So let's just go back and find a rubric that, so if you want to use a rubric that you've already created, just click on find the rubric and you see all the courses that this particular instructor has access to. And so, for example, under this course, you can see a number of rubrics and you can scroll through them and see if it's the rubric that you need. And then once you're happy with that rubric, you can just use this rubric and it automatically attaches itself to that assignment. So it's very convenient. So let's go back to what Ginny was asking, right, about the free-form comments rubric. So for example, if let me just delete this rubric, I don't want to use it. So if we add a rubric and we don't want to have very specific criteria specified, we just want to write free comments to our students, we will choose this write free form comments when assessing students, and then you will create that rubric. You can still have description of criteria, the ones that you want to do, but the ratings are going to be empty. So in this case, you will be just writing the free form comments and you will be able to save them. And let me show you how it looks. So for example, I would create 2 criteria. So first one, no, actually it's not working. Okay, create a rubric. No, I cannot. I'll add it here. Just a second. Oh, here I can add it, but it's not allowing me to edit the criteria. That's weird. I guess I cannot edit them. So I update my rubric, and then if I go to SpeedGrader, and then click on View Rubric, and you see I can write my criteria here. Like I can write feedback to the student, grade, job, and I can be more specific. And then I can also choose save this comment for reuse. And then I can give points as many as I want. And then the same thing, not so good here. And then again, save, and then I'll give 1 and save. And then if I go and grade the next student, and again, view rubric, you can see that I already have some of my comments that I've already used saved, so it's going to make it a little bit easier for me to continue grading. I think that's a pretty useful feature here. So I can continue grading and again save, and then the grade will be posted to the student. But because I didn't select, you see, I didn't select use this rubric for grading, so it's not automatically populating my grade. You see, so that's what's happening.
Like
so
if you want to use that, say, for a draft, but you don't
right.
assign points.
Something like that, yeah. So I just wanted to show you also what happens when you do not check that box, use this rubric for grading. So if you want it automatically populating the grade book, so you definitely want to make sure that the second box, the box is checked. So the other thing, the last thing that I wanted to show you, no, one of the last things, just a second. Let me go back to the assignments. So you can also attach a rubric to a graded discussion. So you just have to look for it in a different place. So if you go to your discussions, if you have a discussion, for example, let's go to this discussion that has already been created, and it's a graded discussion you can see here. So you go to settings, you click on that little gear button where you always go if you want to go to settings, and you can go there and it has this option, add a rubric. So you will add a rubric again, or again, the same way you can find a rubric that you've already created for other assignments. So you can do the same thing. You have the same options that you can use free-form comments. You can use this rubric for assignment grading, or you can just hide scores for assessment results. So the same thing. The same for quizzes. Again, the same way if you go to your quizzes, again, go to settings. Let's say here is a quiz. You go to your settings, and this quiz already has a rubric, but otherwise, if it didn't have a rubric, then it would have this add rubric option. So you can do it there. And the last thing that I wanted to show you is where you can manage your rubrics. So to find your rubrics, you need to go to Outcomes. Here, under the course settings, like under the course, you go to Outcomes, and all your rubrics will be under this little button in the top right corner, Manage Rubrics. And that's where you can access all your rubrics, and from there you can edit your rubrics by clicking on them, or actually if you hover over here on the right, there will, like, you can delete this. You see this little cross appearing, or there should be a little pencil appearing, but just a second. Sometimes it's not easy to find a place. Yeah, that's the easiest way, but I just wanted to show this functionality, but there should be, when you hover over on this right, there, I think that's the easiest way. I think Canvas needs to work better on how to edit those things. So you can go to your rubric. Oh, this one cannot be edited because it's probably used in multiple places. You see, that's what is happening. That's why I did not get this edit option. So let's go and see whether there is a rubric that has been used only once. You see, I'm hovering over here on the right, and here's the little pencil icon appearing, so I can go into edit right away, and then it allows me to edit this rubric.
Why don't they just put the pencil there so you can see it?
Well, that's a good complaint to Canvas. You know, they need to work on this stuff. Yeah, you know, at least, you know, they're trying to be redundant, and there are more than one ways of doing that. So if you just click, you know, on this particular rubric, it also gives you the same option.
Well, yeah, but don't worry about that.
Yeah, just click on that. Yeah, it was just another way of, not obvious way of finding things. So, any questions about creating, editing, managing rubrics in Canvas? Yes?
Print them out.
Can you print them out? There is no print functionality here. You will just probably just just print the whole page. Or I think you can just take a screenshot of this page and then put it somewhere else and then print it that way. But not like a print button that will create a print. Print page, I think, yeah, will be probably just in the browser. You will go and print like that, and it will. Or you can save it, yeah. Instead of printing, you know, like it will, you know, you can save it as PDF here. Yeah, you can do that.
Oh wait, where did you do that?
I clicked change here, destination, and then it gives me save as PDF, or it gives an option to print it to the printer. Usually you have this option, save as PDF.
Where did you get to the, not this page, but the one before? Yeah, where did you get to that?
Oh, just a second. Where did I get to this? I just went into the browser. Just a second, let me go back to the rubric. I just went to the browser settings here. I'm in Google Chrome, I believe, and then I just go to print here.
Yeah, and generally, it what I was also generally, when you get print on any page, it will only print that page on the bars and on the side.
Okay.
So you should be able to print in your print the same way. So even if it's different than your normal print, you can print on the normal way you sort of did that to adapt.
Also, it's just a table, so you could just copy and paste from Word doc.
Yeah, you're right.
Theoretically, but it's not all, you know, like if you just highlight it, yeah, probably. You see, it doesn't automatically do that.
Right, just,
I don't know. Just select the whole thing, yeah, like, yeah, you can copy and then you can see if you're happy with that editing. You had another question, I think?
Well, I was going to ask you, maybe just for you, if you had a really like structure and you wanted to save it as and then modify it, that, like, where's the save as one? But I think I just stopped.
When I was editing the rubric?
Just essentially, I don't know.
No, I was just trying to copy and paste it and then copy. Or
I don't think the functionality that you are able to make a copy.
no, I don't think so. Yeah, I'm looking for that.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You can review it. You can use it all the way, but you can't take one and take the stuff. And
Yeah.
take copies.
You have to recreate it.
Add a little output.
Yeah, I was looking for that. Maybe you can, but I was looking for that and I was not finding the easy solution and I was going through all the manuals that Canvas have. And, yeah.
Import it into your class.
Right.
So if you import pieces of things, other classes, import it into class. Why do you do it? I think that you want to work but that does work that way. And we'll do a session. Those session groups do get pretty complicated, but this is kind of what you look at. The tool that you can use is some of this major functionality. Or we'll do a whole in-depth session at this point. We'll actually brush up on all of their new behaviors, yes. So that can answer these questions a little bit more complex.
All right. And now Phineaus' turn.
All right, we're going to take a little bit different topic here and actually show a really great use, I think, for rubrics, and that's in peer review. Talking about assessment, peer review or student review each other, getting more and more popular. And lucky for us, Wild Courses has some peer review tools built into them. And I think for what they do, they function really well. But there are also some things that they don't do, and I'll get into that. So I'm going to focus on specifically peer-reviewed assignments, and then also peer-reviewed discussion, which is somewhat less used, but I think also a valuable tool in Canvas. So in order to create a peer-reviewed assignment, the first thing you have to do is create a new assignment in Wild Courses. So if anyone wants to walk through this with me, then please feel free. Hopefully will be review for everyone, but go into assignments. And then I'm going to create a new assignment with this plus box right up here. We have so many assignments in this course that it takes forever to load them. It's not the internet being slow, hopefully, but I'm just going to call this peer review. And we'll scroll down and we can put in any rich media or descriptors for the assignment. For right now, I'm not going to take time doing that. I'm going to give it some point value. And the important things to start thinking about in these settings here are
what the assignment is actually going to be and what your students are going to be turning in. As far as peer review goes, and just with the Crocodoc in general, if you want your students to be able to actually go in and mark up the document that their peer submits, then it needs to be in either Doc, DocX, PPT, PowerPoint, or PPTX, or PDF. So basically, documents, PowerPoints, or PDFs are the three types of files that Crocodoc will read. And I think that for peer reviewers to be able to actually mark up what they get from the reviewee is really important. So what I encourage people to do in this case is to go down and define it as an online submission, and then further click into file uploads. And when we do that, then we get the restrict upload file types. And as it describes right here, it's really kind of hard to read, but you just put in the file extension without the period and then separated by a comma. So I'm just going to go and put in those three file types just to show everyone. And it's gray, too. It's gray to add insult to injury, most definitely. I think I got, yeah, okay, so that should work. And yeah, I'll just do those for now. Thank you. Then I'm going to hit Require Peer Reviews. And Canvas gives us a couple of different ways that it will handle peer reviews. One is if you want to assign the reviewees manually yourself. And the second one is if you want to automatically assign peer reviews. And I think the automatically assign function is pretty nice and probably the easiest way to do this. So I'll select that. And once I select the automatically assigned peer reviews, if you notice, then we got a whole nother submenu that just popped up magically for us. And we can define how many reviews per user we want. You can have them review multiple times, but for this I'm just going to put one. So each student is going to review one of their peers' submissions. Yes?
Yeah, when I got to that, I didn't really understand what the who the user was. So
it would be just the others per student. Would be
okay, so the user is, you're saying there is student reviews.
Exactly, and that's a really good point. I'm not really sure why they put user there. It should be student, I would think, but thank you for bringing that up. And then this is another kind of important point here. When thinking about the way that Canvas views peer reviews, what's happening is that Canvas is just allowing a venue for a student to essentially make comments and voice their opinion about the assignment. And then you as the instructor are actually the one who gives the final grade for that assignment. So to that end, the assignment has a due date, and then when we're in here, you're going to assign a secondary due date for the peer review. And so that's what I'll do right now. And it obviously has to be after the assignment due date so that there's something turned in for the reviewers to review. So I'm going to click on that and just assign a date. I think that'll work. And another really, I think, interesting feature about this tool is that they can be anonymous. So we can click on this box and the reviewers and the reviewees won't know who each other are. So depending on what the assignment is, depending on how you want to handle that, that might be valuable or not. But just so that you know it's a possibility. Yes, the students don't know, but the instructor can see everything. Yes, good point. So now we'll just hit Save and Publish down here. I like this new Save and Publish button. Instead of having to do two steps at once, we can do it once now.
And you would separately want to save it but not publish it?
Yes, you can. There's another box that says Save, and then there's Save and Publish. And then, yeah, definitely. So now we've created a peer review assignment, and what I've already done is I've created an assignment and submitted some work from a couple of students to it so that you can just briefly see what that looks like. And then also just really briefly from the student perspective, I'll just show a quick view of that here. I'll go back into the assignments. Okay, and this is actually funny enough, this is the same one that Oksana was working with earlier, and I had to go back and reload my rubric that I had used before into this one. So that's okay. It's just funny. It was great. So I was like, yesterday was not there. Yeah, and there's submissions to it too. I'm like, yeah. So since this is a peer review assignment, you get a whole nother little link over here, and that'll show you who the reviewer and reviewees are. So we'll click on that, and we have Judy Jetson and Velma here to have both submitted an assignment, and therefore they've both been automatically assigned each other's papers to review. So that's just quickly that little view there, and I'm going to go back to the main page, and on that page, I should have stayed there, sorry. If you hover over this, you can send them, it's kind of nice, you can send them a little bump, a little message to complete. If they haven't completed the review, the system will remind them to complete the review. So this is kind of like your management portal for the peer reviews that are happening between your students. You can delete one, you can reassign them. There's a lot of stuff you can do from this page. Yes?
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
When does the program assign? Is it at time of submission or at due date?
Well, it depends on whether or not you have it set up manually or automatically. It actually, if you have it when the peer review is assigned, like that one due date, that's when it will assign it to them.
Okay.
So, yes.
My question is a little bit more involved in the breakout session.
Okay.
I'm very interested. Could this be used for something? I have my students and I have just a little evaluation, anonymous evaluation, give them that I'm looking for that.
Yeah.
Point. Obviously, I could create that maybe, or I could upload my actual evaluation and have them do this. But I'm wondering if as their peers are presented, and they just have a separate one for each of their classes. So then they go to the next one, like career.
I actually think that, yeah, that could work. Yeah. I haven't seen anyone do that yet, but to me, it seems like the tool has that ability. But I'd be happy to talk to you about it more depth later. Yeah, definitely. And you could even make it anonymous if you wanted to add a layer to it for that specific implementation. And I think that the rubric that I assigned here is actually a rubric that was created for presentations, interestingly enough. So, that it definitely, I think it can be used for that. So, management portal, I'm going to go back to the assignment with this link here, and then I'll briefly jump in to just see. So this is one of the test students that we have, and see, she has in her to-do list now, she has a peer review for the media tool. So the student will click in there, and I hope this isn't stealing any of what you're going to... Oh, okay, great, perfect. Trina's going to go into the student perspective on peer review, which I think is extremely valuable. But here is what the student would see of that submission. And this looks a lot like SpeedGrader because once you click into it, you have you can make comments on it or with cancel. You can make comments, but it's actually not SpeedGrader, and I'm not. But an interesting side point that I hadn't touched on yet is that as far as the grading process, if you just assign the peer review and you don't attach a rubric to it, they only have to make one comment in order for it to be a review. But if you attach a rubric to it as well, then they have to comment and they have to fill out the rubric. So I think peer review is a real great place to use rubrics and probably use them pretty heavily because, of course, it gives them the geography of what you want them to focus in on for the assignment. Yes? No, you can't. It's the same rubric. Yeah, because again, the way that Canvas works with this, it's just an assignment, and you're just getting feedback essentially from that reviewer. And probably the most important point, and something that's come up a number of times with people who've asked me about this tool, is what about the grading of the review process, okay? And so Canvas does not give you a way to automatically do that. And what you would have to do is create a separate assignment, have it an assignment with no submission, and then you would manually go in and give the grades to the students for the review process. And this is something that there's been a lot of workarounds that have been developed, and so I know that that's something that people really want, but this isn't something that the tool really does yet. There's no grade for the process and then grade for the actual assignment. It's just the grade for the assignment that the student gets. Yes?
When assign the peer review, I'm wondering if you can assign a group to review another group assignment versus one-on-one. Like if I would use it like each class, you know, where I would need to break it in.
Yeah, the group functionality works in that sense, but it adds a whole different kind of layer of complexity. And again, we'll touch on that later, but we're in a real short time here. I think that's covered everything that I want to cover as far as the peer review assignments. The peer review of discussions functions really similarly. The only thing, I'll briefly jump into a discussion and take a look at it here. For a discussion, a peer review discussion has to be graded, number one, and unless it's graded, you won't even be able to see the peer review option, which is probably one of the reasons why people aren't very familiar with this. But once you click on this graded radio button here, then all of a sudden there's some other things that come up. But require peer reviews, and then manually, automatically, it's all similar. The only other important point with the peer review discussions is that they can't be anonymous. So if you're having your students review all of the discussion posts that one of their colleagues has made to a discussion, then it's going to be up front. There's no anonymity possible in the way that tool works for that. I think that's pretty much it as far as these two tools go. I touched on the limitations. That's good. Is there any other questions about peer review in Canvas? The tool, anyway. Not peer review in general, because maybe a whole other day's worth of. All right. Well, Trina Kilty is going to come. She's going to talk about it from a student perspective. I didn't, but that's I'm kind of meant to. Yeah, no, I didn't really get into that. I didn't even go to speed grader because I felt like I'd gone too far. So
of the drafts of the final project. And then here are my peer review, the two people that I needed to peer review. Well, generally this was not anonymous. I knew who they were, and they knew who a lot of us. And it has a green check mark because I've done it already. I completed it. So it showed me when I was completed with it and what I had to do. And so before that point, it showed up on the to-do list. So I had two people to peer review. I got the rubric, and this was, I think, in the text of it, and then it was again down here with the point value broken out and everything. So I went through and looked at each one of those. and once I clicked into the first peer review person, that was their submission. I was able to make comments, and because I haven't taught with wild horses, I don't know if this is great or not, but it was really convenient for me. I was able to highlight, put comments on it, write text, strike out all those features there, so that made it right. And I was able to add a comment on the side, and then I rubric up here to the right is showing rubrics. So when I went through, I made comments within the document itself, then filled out the rubric, and then did an and so that's what it looks like. It was an uploaded file for the person that I peer reviewed, and I put the comments on here, and I think that's how they got it. That's how I received my peer reviews back, and then I could go in and view that comments for everything, and the rubric as well. And then I received, I think, 2 grades, one from the instructor for content, and then another grade if you, and I think it was you did it or you didn't. There wasn't any grading of the actual peer review process. I either filled this out and got it. So that's what it looked like there. So I found it really easy. And I really like the process. I haven't used it since in this way. It did require a document you turned in, and then I would go in and grade that document opposed to like a presentation or something like that. Since then, I've done some critiques and some other peer review, and we did that in a different way. I'm not sure why, but we did that through email. Instead had us email, we found out, had to go through the class list, person above you, below you, and those were your peer review. And you had to go and email them your work, and they emailed you their work, and then you had comments back and forth to the email system. And I don't think that it didn't seem like that worked well. It seemed a little bit more funky and a bit more dangerous, like something would get lost and shuffled. That happens. It's all keep track of, have I done everything or not? And so that's one thing I would say Canvas had an advantage of is I got those cheaper. Yeah, it is done.
But if you wanted them, like, have them upload that and attach something.
Oh, I did it, but I would quicker if you could. Yeah, I just had those little comment boxes. Not sure how much that I did my review through Canvas. I did it in email, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
in your I don't know. I have to look at it from the non-specific. That's a really, yeah. Yeah, we were required to fill out the rubric, comment, not write it. Aren't you? Yes, this is a. Yeah, and that's a. It's not dynamic, yes. So Trina briefly mentioned some of other ways to talk about the curriculum, and I'm going to expand on that a little bit.
Thank you. So Ginny asked a good question about some of the limitations potentially of the functionality of the peer review tool that's built into Canvas or into Wild Courses. And to be completely honest, We do find that for many faculty find it rather cumbersome. There are some drawbacks to it. It's nice that it's integrated with the system so that students are reminded about peer reviews when they're due and so forth. But from a faculty perspective, it can be kind of difficult to work with. One of the biggest drawbacks we have found, or that faculty have brought to us, is that as a faculty member, if you want to see what a peer reviewer has submitted, and maybe perhaps grade a peer review, that information comes up in the is visible in the speed grader for the original student submission. So I wrote a paper, and Christy was my peer reviewer, and Jeff is teaching the class. Jeff wants to give Christy a grade on the peer review itself. But he sees Christy's peer review in the speed grader for me, right? So you can see where it begins to get kind of cumbersome and difficult. And so we've looked a lot at some other ways to peer review NYO courses, or to use peer review in NYO courses that may be a little bit less bulky and a little bit less difficult to manage. One Trina mentioned was using email. As an instructor, Ginny's shaking her head. I'm with you, Ginny. I don't think that that's a very effective way to peer review. It's just sloppy. There's too much room for slippage. But one way that I've used peer review a lot in my course is a discussion, or in my courses. So I might go into, I have no idea where we are at this point. Oh, I see. Okay. So in a discussion, for example, I might ask my students to post a file and then come in and peer review a file in the discussion area, or post their response as another document. Do you want me to walk through what that might look like? Okay. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be really lazy. Oh, I can't. I'm not logged in as me. Okay. So, thank you. This is a problem a mistake I make every single boot camp. I wear a dress and then I can't hang all the hardware on myself, and so I need a personal assistant. Christy volunteered. Okay, so this is a peer review discussion. And I'm going to say something like, please post your draft here, and when you're ready to for review, or something like, writers, please post your draft here for review. And then reviewers, download the document, post it immediately before yours, or something like that. Often what I'll do is I'll assign students, and I'll say, you're going to review this person's document, and you're going to review this person's document. And I'll have a little schedule. But there are various ways to make that instruction clear. And then for yours, review it using the following criteria. And then I would provide my criteria, and when you're finished, submit a new post and attach your comments or document. Typically, my instructions are going to be quite a little bit more in depth. I'm going to say, these are the people I want. I'm going to have a list of all my students, maybe, or I might say, review the document right before, for the post right before yours and the post right after yours, or pick somebody to review, but try to make sure that you're not peer reviewing a submission that has a lot of comments. And if I've threaded my discussion, right, that's not going to, I can see at a glance, my students can see at a glance. Boy, 4 people have already responded to Christy's document, but nobody's responded to Jeff's. And so I'm going to respond. I'm going to select Jeff's. What becomes important here is a couple of things. One is, whenever I create a discussion, I want to allow threaded replies. That really, and we come over, every time we talk about this, we come back to our feeling that that should be the default configuration for discussions, so that you can see those relationships. So I can see somebody posted and all these, and now and someone else has replied. Okay, so you see the little tree and the indenting relationship between the original posts and the responses and so forth. So always allow threaded replies. Otherwise, you just see a list of posts, and you don't get that nesting that really helps you see the conversation or the conversational aspect of the discussion. I'm going to save this discussion. And then I'm going to show you one other thing, and that is if I go to discussions, I need to configure all of my discussions globally to allow students to attach files to discussions. That's kind of the key here, because if my students can't attach files to discussions, if I haven't selected this option, then the students can't upload their drafts, right? So if I want my students peer reviewing a draft, they have to be able to attach files. If I want my peer reviewers to be able to attach a file, obviously this is the only place I can do it. And this is a global configuration for all discussions. So once I've done this one time in my course, then students will be able to attach files to any discussion. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Annette, no. That's correct. That's correct. Either way, it just means that students can attach files to discussions. Now, there's an added benefit here. Students can't post to the files directory or to the files tool in your course, in MYO courses. And so really, this is about the only place that students can post files, unless you have students working in groups, and then they have their own little file manager that they can share. And so when this hasn't been enabled, and for courses, students often don't have any place where they can share files. So I haven't seen any disadvantages to attaching files to discussions. It may take up some space in your course, but we have not yet heard from a single faculty member saying, my course has gotten too big because my students have attached all these files. So once I've done that, then then Christy can upload her draft. Jeff can come in, download it, comment on it, make whatever comments I want him to make. I can provide the rubric for him as an attachment, or it's in the assignment. And then when he's finished, he can upload the draft or his comments. He can also just type his comments as a discussion post. So there are a couple of different ways that your peer reviewers can provide feedback. Ginny, you have a question.
If you don't want students to be able to say, me too, to agree with previous posts, then you go back and you check that choice that says they have to post.
I see what you're saying. So posting first. So that's kind of a slightly different consideration, excuse me. Right. So if we go back to this peer review discussion, come on. Hello. There we go. Okay. And I edit it. Okay. So I think what Ginny's talking about is that often we all have this experience with threaded discussions when you ask your students to post the response to some kind of a prompt, right? And somebody posts something thoughtful, and the next student comes in and reads the post and says, yeah, I agree with, I agree with what she said. Or maybe just regurgitates what she said. And if you, and the way to prevent that from happening is a switch, an option in your discussions. So if we scroll down here, this option right here, users must post before seeing replies. And if you do that when the student comes into a discussion, until the student posts a discussion for the first time, the student can't see any of the other responses, any of the other replies. In a peer review discussion, that becomes less of an issue, right? I mean, the student isn't going to see anybody else's posts until the student posts. No. No. Right. So that's not going to work for you in the way that you're thinking of it if what you're doing is setting up a discussion for the purpose of peer reviewing. Yeah. Yeah. Unless you want to make sure, for example, that a student can't peer review until the student has actually posted something. So sometimes I want to say, you know what, if you're going to participate in this peer review, because sometimes my peer reviews are optional, you also have to submit a draft, your own work. So if you want to peer review some other people's work, I also want you submitting your own draft for somebody else to peer review. And in that case, you could say, well, you're not going to see anybody else's work until you submitted something. So you could use the post first option that way. But until you post something, you don't see anything else except for the prompt. Yeah. Nathan.
Quick question. So I've had
feature where they have to post where they can reply, where they will post something. And the other people reply and they go in and edit it.
Edit the post?
Yeah, edit their post.
Okay, so now that's another global configuration.
Okay.
I think, is that true? Or am I thinking about? That's true. Okay, for a minute there, I thought maybe I was thinking about college. So that's another in your discussion, and this is the thing that's a little bit funny, that you've got these two levels of permissions and discussions in Canvas. One is individual at the level of individual discussion. That's where you're seeing things like post first and allow threaded replies. Okay, so every time you set up a discussion, you have to configure these options. So by default, they are not going to be set up to be threaded, your discussions. They are not going to be set up to require that students post first. A fairly new functionality is to allow liking. So, and that is just, you've seen it other places like on Facebook, where a student just comes in and says, hey, I like that. Or somebody just comes in and says, I like that. That's a functionality that's fairly new, and you can allow it, again, on a discussion basis. So if I say here, users must post first before seeing replies, that's only going to apply to this discussion. And every time and in every other discussion, I have to configure that. In the course, I have to configure that separately. But the other level, and this is what Nathan is asking about, is on the level of discussions globally. Yeah, we can leave this page. Okay. And that's this little gear. So I think most of you probably know this, but I'll say it anyway, just in case. And that is that the little gear shows up all over the place in my courses, and that little gear is, here's more functionality, or some more things. This is how I control this content item. In this case, this little gear is controlling all of the discussions in a course. And here, Nathan, you can allow students to edit and delete their own posts. So if you don't want students to edit, don't check that. Yeah. Yeah. So just a quick run through the ability just to use discussions as a peer review tool. Now I can now grade my students' peer reviews in the discussion column, right? So now I know that when Kristen has submitted a response, i.e. a peer review, I'm going to see that in the speed grader for Christy, not for Jeff, to whom Christy's response was responding. Okay? That discussion will still show up as a to-do if it has a due date. It'll still show up for your students. They'll get a reminder. You have a discussion due. You have a peer review discussion due, if that's the name of your discussion. But it won't automatically, the system won't automatically set up the peer review in the way that Phineaus and Trina were showing you. There are a couple of other tools. I think that we've talked about peer review for a long time, and we're running a bit behind schedule, so I will just quickly tell you that there are a couple of other tools that can be useful for discussions. One is collaborations, and in collaborations, you will actually use Google Docs to collaborate. You set up a new collaboration, and so this is a great way to use peer review if you want students to actually be commenting on a live document, for example. So more collaborative than a peer review for an individual, you know, I'm working on a paper, I want peer input, as opposed to I'm working on a paper, I want to invite you to come in to help contribute to this assignment. You can also use, and I'm not going to walk through this at this today, simply because I think we're running out of time. And we have a few other things that we really want to show you. The last tool that's useful for discussions or for peer review and collaboration is the groups tool. So if I want to set up a group, for example, I can create a collaboration in a group, and my students can collaborate within a group. I would do that by going to People, and then creating a new group set that I would then split my students up into groups within this group set. So let's see. Not like that. Ah. I have lots of different options here that we are not going to talk about right now. We will do a session on groups. The group functionality in Canvas is very powerful. But I'll create just one group very quickly within this group set to show you. Wonder if I have a group called this already. Maybe I do. And I'll put a couple people in there. Now I can go to this group's homepage, and I can create a collaboration here that's going to happen within this group, within the students who are in the group, for peer review, for collaboration, for collaborative design, and so forth. I could also create a discussion for them to share. Faculty can see everything. Faculty can get into all the groups. Yeah.
Well, there was something about.
You can't control them. You can't add and delete tools. And what happens in groups is not tied to the gradebook, with a couple of exceptions. But you can always, as a faculty member, you can always go into any of the groups that are in your class and see what's happening there. Yeah. Nathan.
I had a question. I'm teaching a large lecture class with students are broken up into smaller lab sections. I would like to have all the grades concentrated in the main or shell out of the back. Is there a way in which I can group the students so that they appear group grade?
believe there is, have a look at it. And we come back to that.
Yeah.
It's a great question. It's a really good question. I just haven't looked, and because as you all know, sometimes the certain specific functionality can change with updates. I'd like to look at it. Yeah. So then let's just really run through it. Collaboration. We got, we're going to finish today, or we can always do that. So just let us know area that you'd like to share. Okay, how many days? They are Mondays and Thursdays. So there are Mondays from 1 to 3. You're talking about touch. The open market product, yeah. So Mondays from 1 to 3 in ECTL, and Thursdays from 1 to 3 in YFR 304. Right? It used to be Friday, we changed it to Thursday for Monday. That by changing to, from an even day to Monday, basically. And getting off the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, that we may be able to, we may work in more people's schedules. Because if people can't come Monday from 1 to 3, chances are really good they can't come Friday from 1 to 3, but maybe they can come Thursday. However, you can only, these are not always. You can't make them with time. Or not. Always. Yeah. It started. It started. We had Monday sessions all summer, and last Thursday we had our first Thursday session. Yeah. Yeah. Other questions? Somebody's talking about something else now. Let's see what's next. Drop it up about where they go. 5 minute break, take 5 minute break, stand up, walk around, get your brain moving. Okay, so 2 to 3, then you have to talk about physics.